Alright, let's do this.
Did you know that you can now hijack or laser down rogue drones? But if misused, these same tools just may backfire. Hang tight. That's coming up next on TiPS Today in Public Safety.
Welcome to TiPS Today in Public Safety, your go-to podcast for today's breaking stories and public safety news. Here's your host, Fletch, with today's tips.
Welcome to TiPS Today in Public Safety. This is Fletch. I'm a certified NENA ENP, and on Monday, Wednesday, and Friday each week, I bring you the latest news and information about public safety and next-generation 911 services and solutions. Today we're covering the fascinating and sometimes worrying world of drones and the various neutralization technologies available. We'll explore how first responders can use them for good while stopping the nefarious ones, and where all of this could backfire, in addition to what some of the current and future legal framework might look like. Drones. What can public safety do with this technology? Well, public safety's use of drones has been well documented, most recently with the technology becoming incredibly affordable and available everywhere, and with it sourced more and more from countries that may not have U.S. interests in their priority. The mitigation of rogue drones has become a question that many agencies are asking. First, let's look at the various technology solutions that, if permitted, agencies could have available to them in a layered toolkit for dealing with rogue drones. The first is RF jamming and GPS spoofing. Most drones are controlled through a radio link and a ground-based control unit. Simply disrupting that command link or spoofing the navigation signals would be enough to force drones to either land or invoke their built-in return to home function that's commonly found in commercial drones designed to prevent a runaway condition should communications be lost. Simple, but it could be disruptive to other critical communications if misused. Next is directed energy technology. This is where we get a little high-tech with high-power microwave and lasers that silently fry the electronics inside the drone. Now, that might be ideal for drone swarms or near-sensitive infrastructure, but it's a little bit closer to the weapon class of solution, and it might be effective for your neighbor's teenage kids and their loud stereo at 2 a.m. Then we've got simple kinetic systems. These are physical things like nets that are fired from ground or interceptor drones that physically capture the UAV, minimize the scattered debris risks, but you have to remember whatever goes up still has to come down someplace. And then the last one, which is a little scary, is that cyber command takeover. Tools will likely be developed that'll be able to hijack and hack into drones to land them safely. Very helpful for investigations or returning home and detecting innocent hobbyist drones. Again, a great solution, but the nefarious use is a little scary and concerning. You need to remember that any technology that's developed for good will ultimately be available to the bad guys as well. It's all about layering detection, identification, and mitigation tools that will all be needed to allow public safety to neutralize threats while avoiding unintentional collateral harm. Plus, we need to consider the negative side of the technology, because anybody can have any technology with the right amount of money. While strong policies will help, the enforcement activities need to be strong and supported to prevent these high-tech solutions from becoming risks themselves. So what's the legislative landscape and what's coming next? Well, as I always say, I'm not a lawyer, but here's a quick summary of where we stand now and where we're likely heading, in my opinion. Today, it's federal-only authority, plain and simple. Under the Preventing Emergency Threats Act of 2018, only DHS, DOJ, and DOD have counter-UAS powers. Flat out, local agencies are mostly sidelined. However, a state and local push is underway. Legislation like the Defense Act, Shield U, and other bills introduced aim to empower local authorities at things like events, airports, and stadiums. Then there's always executive action that may be pending. The New York City Police Department is seeking authority to neutralize drones itself, and there's some hope federal orders may soon back that move, according to recent reports in the New York Post. But still, there's always the civil liberty caution. Experts warn about privacy and safety trade-offs whenever handing over drone targeting powers and capabilities. Still, the FAA preemption remains. And that means all local efforts must continue to operate under the Federal Aviation Administration's airspace control. And that encompasses things like pilot training and licensing, craft capabilities and registration, as well as airspace usage and coordination. So in the near term, watch for new pilot programs, various task force reports, and proposed model regulations that will pave the way for local counter-UAS use, probably first seen at big events and critical infrastructure. But until that time, the feds are in charge. That wraps up this episode of TiPS, Today in Public Safety. This is Fletch. I really hope you found this insightful and it gave you a better understanding of the tools, risks, and legal shifts in drone defense. If you enjoyed this episode, please drop a like and be sure to share it with your team. If you have questions or a topic that you'd like to cover, just reach out to me on social media at Fletch911 and your idea might become our next episode. Thanks so much for listening, and if you're in public safety, as always, thanks for what you do every day. Stay safe, take care, we'll catch you next time.
You've been listening to TiPS, Today in Public Safety, your go-to podcast for today's breaking stories and public safety news. Hosted by Fletch and available every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday on 911tips.com. That's 911tips.com. Be sure to like and subscribe, and remember to join us each week for the latest on NG 911. I am Spider Harrison, the official 911 voiceover dude. Catch me on Sirius XM on various channels, including 90s on 9, the 10 spot, and on the Weekend Countdown on Hits 1. Or don't regret it for the rest of your life. Either way, I'm good.